That's the man from my dream. The rain hammered against the cafe windows like 1,000 tiny fists demanding entry, each drop racing down the glass as if trying to escape something unseen. Inside, the warm glow of Edison bulbs cast amber shadows across weathered wooden tables, and the scent of fresh espresso mingled with the sweet aroma of cinnamon rolls baking in the back. Marcus Chen sat alone in the corner booth, his $6,000 suit slightly dampened from his hurried entrance, his hands wrapped around a cooling cup of black coffee he hadn't touched in 20 minutes. He stared at nothing, seeing everything, the empire he'd built, the fortune he'd amassed, the endless hollow nights in his penthouse overlooking a city that sparkled with life he couldn't seem to touch. At 38, he had everything money could buy and nothing his heart truly wanted. Then a small voice shattered his carefully constructed walls with 4 words that would change everything. Mom, that's the man from my dream. If this story touches your heart, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Pulse for more inspiring stories that remind us what truly matters in life. Your support means the world. Marcus's head snapped up so fast his neck cracked audibly. A little girl no more than 6 years old stood 3 feet away, her tiny finger pointing directly at him with the unwavering certainty that only children possess. She wore a faded purple raincoat with a torn pocket, rain boots decorated with unicorns that had seen better days, and her dark curls hung in damp ringlets around a face that made his breath catch. Not because she was particularly beautiful, though she was, but because of the way she looked at him, like she knew him, like she'd been waiting for him. Her mother, a woman in her early 30s with tired eyes and hands roughened by hard work, grabbed the child's arm gently but firmly, her face flushing with embarrassment that turned her olive skin a deep crimson. Sophia, we don't point at strangers, the woman said, her voice barely above a whisper, the kind of voice that had learned to make itself small in a world that didn't always have space for single mothers working 2 jobs. I'm so sorry, sir. She has very vivid dreams sometimes, and she gets confused between what's real and what isn't. But Sophia didn't lower her finger. She took a step closer, and Marcus found himself unable to move. His usual commanding presence dissolved into something vulnerable and exposed. You're the man who saves people, Sophia said with absolute conviction, her brown eyes wide and unblinking. In my dream, you were crying in a big building made of glass, and an angel came and told you to find the little girl with the broken heart, because you have a broken heart too, and when you fix hers, yours gets fixed too. The cafe had gone silent. Even the hiss of the espresso machine seemed to hold its breath. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. A fissure in the armor he'd spent 2 decades constructing after his own daughter, his Lily, had died in his arms 15 years ago. Her tiny body broken by a drunk driver's carelessness. Her last words a whispered, "I love you, Daddy," that haunted him every single night. He'd buried his grief in work, in deals and mergers and acquisitions, building a technology empire worth $300 million that couldn't buy him 1 more minute with the child he'd lost. He'd stopped believing in signs and dreams, in anything beyond the cold logic of profit margins and quarterly reports. I don't know what your daughter is talking about, Marcus said, but his voice betrayed him, cracking like ice under pressure. He started to stand, to flee, to return to the safe, predictable emptiness of his corner office. Please, Sophia said, and there was something in that one word that rooted him to the spot. The angel said you would help us. She said you lost someone too, and that's why you would understand. Tears began to stream down her small face, and her mother knelt beside her, pulling the child close. Sophia, sweetheart, this man doesn't know us, her mother said, and now Marcus could hear the desperation in her voice, the bone-deep exhaustion of someone who'd been fighting alone for too long. We should go. What do you need? The words came out of Marcus before he could stop them, before his rational mind could override his breaking heart. What do you need help with? The woman looked up at him, and in her eyes he saw a reflection of his own pain, the kind of grief that comes from helplessness, from watching someone you love slip away while you stand powerless. My daughter needs a heart transplant, she said, and the words fell between them like stones into still water. We've been on the waiting list for 8 months. I work 2 jobs, but the medical bills are drowning us, and the hospital said if we can't make next month's payment, they'll discharge her from the transplant program. But we'll be fine. We always are. I shouldn't have brought her here today. She needed to get out of the hospital room for a while, and I thought the rain would make her happy. Marcus sat back down. He pulled out his phone and his hands were shaking as he dialed his assistant. "Jennifer, I need you to conference me with Dr. Sarah Mitchell at Columbia Medical Center immediately." "Yes, the head of cardiology." "Yes, I know what time it is. Tell her Marcus Chen is calling about a pediatric heart transplant case that needs immediate priority review, and I'm prepared to make whatever donation is necessary to their children's wing. Full funding, no questions asked." Sophia's mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, but Marcus held up a finger. He wasn't done. Over the next 20 minutes, while his coffee grew cold and the rain continued its relentless symphony against the windows, Marcus made 7 more calls. He contacted the director of the Regional Organ Procurement Organization, a pharmaceutical CEO who owed him a favor, and his own foundation's medical coordinator. He arranged for Sophia's transfer to the best pediatric cardiac facility in the country, established a trust fund to cover all medical expenses past and future, and set up a scholarship fund in his late daughter's name, specifically for children of single parents facing catastrophic medical bills. When he finally set down his phone, Sophia had climbed into the booth beside him, her small hand resting on his arm like a butterfly. "The angel was right," she whispered. "You do save people." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face for the first time in 15 years, and he didn't try to stop them. "What was the angel's name?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Sophia smiled. "Lily. She said she's been trying to talk to you for a long time, but you stopped listening. She said it's time to start living again." The world tilted. Marcus pulled the little girl into a gentle embrace, and over her head, he met her mother's tear-filled gaze. In that moment, 3 broken hearts began to mend, not because of money or medicine or miracles, though all of those would play their part in the months to come, but because in the space between grief and grace, a child's dream had bridged the impossible distance between a man who had forgotten how to feel and a little girl who taught him that sometimes angels speak through the innocent. And healing begins when we stop running from our pain and start running toward each other. 6 months later, Sophia walked out of the hospital with a new heart beating strong in her chest, and Marcus walked beside her, no longer the hollow billionaire who'd sat alone in a cafe watching rain fall on a city that had ceased to matter. He'd sold his penthouse and moved to a neighborhood where children played in streets and neighbors knew each other's names. He'd restructured his entire company around a new mission, using technology and resources to connect families in crisis with the help they needed, creating a nationwide network that had already assisted over 3,000 children facing life-threatening illnesses. But more than that, he'd found something he thought died with his daughter 15 years ago: purpose, connection, and the understanding that wealth without compassion is just another form of poverty. If this story reminded you of the power of compassion and second chances, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Kindness Pulse, and share this story with someone who needs to remember that miracles happen when we open our hearts. Together, we can spread more kindness in this world. Sometimes the universe speaks in whispers we're too busy to hear, but other times it speaks through the dreams of children who see what we've forgotten. That every broken heart carries within it the seeds of redemption, that every ending holds the promise of a new beginning, and that the greatest wealth we'll ever possess isn't counted in dollars or deals, but in the lives we touch when we finally stop running from our pain and start running toward our purpose. Marcus had spent 15 years building walls to protect himself from feeling anything at all, only to discover that a 6-year-old girl in a torn purple raincoat could demolish those walls with 4 simple words and teach him that sometimes the people we're meant to save end up saving us instead. And that love, the truest currency in this world, multiplies infinitely when we find the courage to give it away.